biggest lies in the Yu-Gi-Oh card game right now. True Draco is a dead deck. Now, granted, we did lose Masterpiece, and that is a very powerful card. But in return, we got one of the best monsters that the deck has to offer. Dinomight, the True Draco Fighter. And while not having a monster that's immune to spells, traps, or monsters, as well as being able to destroy a card on your opponent's side of the field, does hurt, having a monster that tutors some of the best cards in the deck to the side of the field, as well as 3 copies of another monster that tutors the best spells in this deck to our side of the field, is definitely a masterpiece, a work of art, something that we can really suffice with. Ultimately, True Draco is the most successful anti-meta deck to ever touch a Yu-Gi-Oh player's hands. If you guys don't believe me, then look at the tops. I'm TheCaliEffect, and if you guys want to see more videos like this, then go ahead and destroy that subscribe button. But more importantly, you can hit that notification bell because, well, the Draco's just too strong. I would also like to give a shout out to all of my Patreons. Without you guys, these videos would not exist. You guys are freaking amazing. And if you guys want to support the channel, then go ahead and check out my Patreon. We have some awesome rewards for you guys. Now, I'm not lying. True Draco is still a very, very viable deck into this format. It is the ultimate board breaker. And as long as we still have our spells and traps, it's a deck that can still compete with any deck out there. Okay, so before we get into the True Draco deck profile, let's check out the stats of this deck. Extremely high attack when the lowest monster on your field at all times is 1900 attack, but the defense does suffer just a little bit inside of this build. This is a deck built to break boards consistently, so its consistency and power are literally off the roof when you can break 3 monster negates boards with ease. I really think that this is a meta deck for the format, and ironically, anti-meta decks really can't be meta, but it's still an anti-meta deck because it checks every deck in the meta. I want to say that you can top a YCS level event with this deck at the very most of its ceiling, meaning that yes, this still could be a very big tier 1 deck. Let's look at the monsters. So, we start off with 1 copy of Dinomight, the True Draco Fighter. This is the card that just newly off the list for us, and it's a very powerful card. Now, when your opponent activates a card effect, you can tutor 1 True Draco or True King trap card from your deck to your side of the field or hand. I was going to say from your deck or graveyard, but that's not true. This card is really important for getting the best cards because the trap cards not only allow you to tribute summon on your opponent's turn, but they also allow you to destroy your opponent's monsters. So basically, this gets you your artifact cards to your side of the field. It's extremely powerful, and it's at 1 for a pretty good reason. To follow up what we run 3 copies of your boy freshly off the forbidden list, Ignis, the True Draco Warrior. Now, he is a fantastic card because when your opponent activates a card effect, you can add 1 continuous spell, or I'm sorry, 1 True Draco or True King continuous spell card from your deck to your hand or activate it to your side of the field. So he is the direct counterpart of Dinomight and allows you to bring out field presence of those True Draco spell cards, which are still really important. Keep in mind, when those True Draco spell cards are sent to the graveyard, you get to destroy your opponent's cards. So he's better for your turn and he's better for your opponent's turn, but no matter what, it pretty much works out because all of your True Draco cards are extremely powerful. To search your True Draco monsters, we run 3 copies of Majesty Maiden, the True Draco Caster. Now, it has a similar effects to Ignis and Dinomight, but when your opponent activates a card effect, you can add 1 True Draco or True King monster from your deck to your hand. And what makes her so powerful is because she allows us to run a very low monster count and then search all of our monsters that we need, kind of like how Elemental Heroes were playing anti-meta back in the day with their 10 monsters. Lastly, to wrap up the Monster Boys, we run 3 copies of our honorable mention, 3 copies of Rock Boy. Amato Awato is extremely powerful in this deck with or without Masterpiece, and the reason being is that our spells and traps do so much disruption on their own right. I just need my opponent not to play Yu-Gi-Oh for a little bit. Being able to summon this card when your opponent has 3 monster board negates, or just summon it when you know your opponent has Ash Blossom, Drolling Locks, or Ghost Ogres to establish your board with no interruptions. This card is simply amazing. Now, there was a couple of monsters that I was thinking about playing. One of them is Miriam, the True Draco Phoenix, and then the other one is Inspector Border. Inspector Border was a really good card, but I felt that a mono allowed me to break boards on my opponent's turn or on my turn, and if I'm going first, prevented my opponent from using their hand trap, so I just couldn't get the card out of my mind. It's just a really amazing card in my opinion, but don't disinspect the border. It's still a really great card in its own right too. Merriam works really well with your Dragonic Diagram. If you destroy Merriam with Dragonic Diagram, not only can you search a card through Diagram, but Merriam will search you a True Draco monster as well. I thought it was a really good option for being able to search you additional monsters, as well as getting you basically a free tribute setup all in one card through your Diagram's effects. The reason why I went against Merriam was really because of space and consistency issues. Not necessarily that the deck is inconsistent, this is a very consistent deck, but the fact that having Merriam required you to have Diagram, and Merriam had no other uses, so that's why I kind of sided against it. So that's it for the monsters at 10. This deck can run a very low monster count and see all of your cards fairly quick, and that's thanks in part by Dragonic Diagram. This card is freaking amazing. Now, you get to destroy one card on your field or hand to add one True Draco, or you can add one True King monster from your deck to your hand. So this card could essentially search out the Merriam, and you can activate the second Diagram to destroy the Merriam, but I just felt that that wasn't good enough. I mean, it sounds really good in theory, but breaking Merriam just way too much on my mind. The reason why this card is so powerful back then is because it searched you Masterpiece, and Masterpiece was extremely versatile in every deck. But now, I feel that Dragonic Diagram has found more of a home for the True Draco deck, because the other targets are really meant for True Dracos. You could run True King cards, but they require you to be a little bit more specific than Masterpiece. Next, we actually do run another field spell card. We run Domain of the True Monarchs. We run a 0-card extra deck, and this guy can actually boost Ignis to a 3200 attack monster, or actually Ignis is a 24, right? Yeah, to a 3200 attack monster. But more importantly, it prevents our opponent from going into the extra deck. So after we have an extra terraforming and a tribute summon monster on our side of the field, use that terraforming for a Dragonic Diagram and lock your opponent out of their extra deck. I think this card is extremely funny when they see it coming, because they never do. And then lastly, for our field spells is 3 copies of terraforming to search your Dragonic Diagram or Domain. You typically want to end with the Domain. You don't want to necessarily draw the Domain, or you don't want to open the Domain. You want to like terraforming into it or draw into it. That's why you only run 1. It's an extremely searchable card inside of this deck. For the draw engine, because we run a big draw engine, 3 copies of Card of Demise. This card is still nutty in True Draco. Drawing 3 cards is really free, and since you play 22 spell cards and 10 monsters, the odds of you drawing like a full hand of monsters with Card of Demise that you couldn't destroy or summon are extremely low. So this card is another reason why True Draco is so good. It's a catalyst for 3 free cards, 2 copies of Pot of Duality. I don't like 3 Pot of Duality in this deck, because Pot of Duality not only is a hard once per turn, but it kind of like isn't like, it only gets us 1 card. Like Card of Demise, you can run 3 of in my opinion, because it's just 3 of them. If I draw another Card of Demise, I mean, okay, that's fine, I'll set it. You know, draw 3 more cards next turn. Pot of Duality doesn't have the same power as Card of Demise, but it's still a really good card, allowing us to dig into our deck for we get special summon for the turn. Oh my god, help me now. I run 1 special summon card, and that's only because I have to. 2 copies of Pot of Desires. I still don't know why we're in 2018 and people hate Pot of Desires. It is just a good card. I wish I could be like, you know, fake commercials like, it's scientifically proven to be one of the better cards of the format. But let's face it, Pot of Desires is here to stay. It is one of the best cards of the format, and any deck that runs multiples of cards and doesn't really mind banishing said cards from their deck, it's 2 free cards. It's no reason to not run Pot of Desires in decks like this. So that's it for the draw engine. Not really, but kinda. The next cards we're going to be running are 3 copies of True Draco Heritage and 3 copies of Disciples of the True Draco. I was having a deep conversation with my boy at Regionals. I was playing True Draco, and he literally told me Masterpiece was going to be banned, and I'm looking at him like, makes sense, but he was like, nothing else in True Draco is going to get hit. And his reasoning is they wanted to sell Megatons. And he was like, well, True Draco's still a dead deck. I looked at him dead in the eyes and I said, as long as they do not touch these cards, True Draco will still be a very powerful deck, and it holds true. And the reason why True Draco is so powerful is because of these cards. These cards give you an additional normal summon. They allow you to destroy cards on your opponent's side of the field, spells and trap-wise, as well as draw cards. That's ridiculous. And the fact that they can recurse themselves into the deck through the effects of Disciples, the True Draco Phoenix, is even more win. I mean, when deck has 3 Pot of Avarices built inside of it that's searchable, there really isn't a lot, because Pot of Avarice is a bannable card for a reason, and True Draco Heritage, I don't even know what to compare this card to. You're probably going to draw 2 cards, so it's like having 3 Pot of Greaves inside of the deck. That's it for the True Draco spells. I wish we had more, but that's what we're working with. To wrap up the spells, we run 1 copy of the Monarch Storm 4th. What I did notice about this deck is that with the absence of Masterpiece, it's a little bit harder to get over some of your opponent's monster threats, but have no fear. Monarch Storm 4th is here to tribute your opponent's monster, and then so you can continue to play Yu-Gi-Oh! And then 1 copy of my spicy, it's not really a tech. 1 copy of Tenacity of the Monarchs. It's only natural that this card comes back into the fray with Ignis being at 3. Now, I was trying more than one. I didn't necessarily like it, but the fact that we can search Ignis from our deck to our hand, Tenacity of Monarchs basically becomes a 2nd Monarch Storm 4th. It becomes a 2nd Domain of the Monarchs and a 3rd Monarchs Erupt. So it's just a really, really powerful card in this deck. I feel that 1 is really fine. That's it for the spells at 22. For the traps, unfortunately, I had to drop the traps down to 8. I was pretty depressed, but they're still really powerful traps, right? 3 copies of True Draco Apocalypse. This card is needed a little bit more than ever, mainly because it can destroy other True Draco cards you control, which I guess in theory could destroy Miriam, but how the fuck am I gonna summon Miriam anyways? 2, half the attack of all of your opponent's monsters. So this basically says we don't have to like play gimmicky cards to make other cards stronger than your opponent's cards. I'll just have to attack with True Draco Apocalypse, and more often than not gain an effect to destroy a spell or trap or destroy another monster in the process. 1 copy of True King's Return. I run it because it's a searchable True Draco card. They both allow you to tribute summons on your opponent's turn since they're inherently traps. But more importantly, this allows me to special summon a True Draco monster or True King monster to my side of the field. Now, hypothetically, you can continuously summon Miriam to your side of the field and destroy it with Draconic Diagram. I'm not trying to push Miriam on y'all, but I don't know, man. I don't know. If he's that good, I just might name my next kid Miriam. Boy or girl. Yeah, I'm going to ruin his life like that. Nextly is 2 copies of the Monarchs Erupt. Skill Drain isn't as good in this deck. Can you guys hear me? Don't play Skill Drain. I love Skill Drain. Don't ever not come to my hand, Skill Drain. But seriously, Skill Drain isn't as good because we can't make Masterpieces unaffected by traps, so it isn't necessarily one-sided, but the Monarchs Erupt is still a pretty big one-sided card and searchable under Tenacity of the Monarchs. It's a really good card, and I think a lot of people don't understand that even if they do get rid of the Tribute Summon monster, I have an entire turn to put another Tribute Summon monster on the board. So unless I'm losing Yu-Gi-Oh! Of some sort, then it's going to be pretty easy to follow up with another Tribute Summon monster. Next is 2 copies of Rivalry of Lore Lords. I actually switched Anti-Spell Fragrance out for Rivalry because, again, Masterpiece doesn't give us the flexibility, or without having Masterpiece, we don't have the flexibility to just utterly rape our opponents anymore. We have to go around the slow route, and Rivalry of the Warlords actually really does that very well for us because it forces the opponent to play our game. Summon 1 monster, come to our pace, don't summon more than 1 type. Oh no, don't go to the extra deck, don't activate no effects. But more importantly, just don't play Yu-Gi-Oh! And it's an extremely powerful card for the True Draco. Now, the only problem you guys would have with playing this card is the Rock. I'm sorry, I gotta do it. My wife told me to do it. Can you smell what the Rock is cooking? All right, but anyways, the only problem with this card is the Rock. But you can still people's elbow your opponent because you'll be able to win the game because they won't be able to summon other monsters. So that's it for the traps. Let's get you guys to the sideboard because we play no extra deck. No reason to. All right, ladies and gentlemen, to wrap it up, I have a really good feeling on what this meta is going to look like, but I still I'm working on the sideboard. I think that I have some really awesome side cards, but more importantly, let's just share it with you guys. There might be some people really new to the True Draco archetype and wondering why I don't play an extra deck. Well, in order for me to resolve domain and activate Monarch Erupt, I can't have an extra deck. I can't. Like, I can't. Starting off with the extra deck, we run 6 monsters. One of them is 3 copies of Fossil Dino Pachycephalo. Now, the reason why I run this card, I know I said its name right. The reason why I run this card is because it's just so beautiful. The Rock normally comes out for the Rock monster, and he allows us to wipe our opponent's boards or just completely prevent them from special summoning. I thought that it was a really good card. Another card that I like to substitute the Rock for is 3 copies of, I guess it's another freaking Rock. Oh my god, Winged Dragon Aura Sphere Mode. There is a chant that I like to say before I summon this card on my opponent. Great beast of the sky, please hear my cry. Transform Knight. Okay, you guys understand, but seriously, this card is extremely powerful because I see a lot of people making 3 monster boards, literally, or making insane nightmare boards, and then they give you the Ibli, and you're like, nigga, what? Like, no, you can't do that. So the Kaijus are out of the question, but I can just slip them this card, and since this deck really doesn't need the tribute, or doesn't need its normal summon, I can gain tribute summons through my True Draco spell cards, I can continue to play Yu-Gi-Oh! Another fun fact about this card is that if Monarch Erupt is on my field, I can just, slip them one of my balls, or slip them Winged Dragon Aura Sphere Mode, and I can actually still attack into it, target it, and do whatever I want with it. I am really thinking about playing that Winged Dragon Aura here so I can really do the call and then bring it to my side of the field. So that's pretty much it for the monsters. There were some other great cards. Inspector Border was one that I thought about running. Hand Trap was another before I realized that I just didn't think that was smart because I'm not taking out card demises. But ultimately, I settled with those 6 cards because they allow me to break boards or make boards a lot easier. Next, my apologies, 2 copies of Twin Twisters. I can't run Cosmic Cyclone in this deck because I play, what's that card called? I do play Imperial Iron Wall, but this is for back row heavy decks. 2 copies of Anti-Spell Fragment. Your boy is still in there. I felt that this card was better regulated to the side for Pendulum Magician or decks that just really need their spells, because this deck kind of needs its spells, but not as much as the opponent needs their spells, and I can always tribute this. I run 3 copies of Red Reboot. This card's really nasty. I don't play evenly matched inside of this deck. I probably should be playing evenly matched, but I hate being evenly matched, especially now more than ever, because I can't be like, just take all these cards, let me keep my masterpiece to break your board. That doesn't happen. But Red Reboot not only is great against Altergeist, it's great against evenly matched. And these other tubers lame, I ain't never evenly matched. Sometimes they just need to reboot to the red room. Get it? Because this is a red spell. All right, never mind, I'll stop. And then lastly is 2 copies of Imperial Iron Wall. Another good card for evenly matched. I'll mess around with these 2 cards depending on if I'm going first or second. But also this is great against Infernoids because Infernoid Lair is a deck that allows you to tribute your monsters. Not today, homie, when I got Imperial Iron Wall on the field. I just might play Master Restrict against that deck because it's pretty nasty. I don't really care for not being able to tribute because I can always tribute. Dang, I can't even tribute Master Restrict, but I can blow it up with Diagram. That's it for the extra deck. Thank you guys so much, or the side deck. Thank you guys so much for watching another segment of the TheCaliEffect. I really hope you guys enjoyed. Let's get this video to 150 likes. Share this video with a friend. They might think that True Draco is a dead deck. You'd be like, no, homie, it's that True Draco deck provided by TheCaliEffect, King of Games. I really hope you guys are having a great day like I am. I'm sorry, I'm sound a little bit too energetic. I just found out some great news about my shoulder, but thank you guys so much. Please like, comment, subscribe, but most of all, enjoy. I hope you guys are having a great day like I am.